Imagine a world where the sun doesn't just set, it vanishes, leaving behind a darkness so thick you can feel it pressing against your skin. 50,000 years ago, night wasn't a time for rest, it was a battlefield. While you shiver in the shadows of a cave, eyes that glow in the dark are watching, waiting for your fire to die. But in this terrifying void, something incredible happened. Our ancestors didn't just hide, they evolved. They invented the first social network, mastered a forgotten biological superpower, and turned the night into the birthplace of human culture. This is the secret history of what really happened after the sun went down. Part 1. The Age of Absolute Terror. Before we had the flame, the night was a prison. For millions of years, the human species followed a simple, brutal rule. When the light died, you disappeared. Our ancestors, the Australopiths and early Homo habilis, were not the kings of the jungle. They were snacks for the Dinofelis, a massive false saber-toothed cat that specialized in hunting primates. To these creatures, the night was a buffet. To us, it was a blackout. Our eyes, evolved for the bright African savanna, were useless. We had no claws, no fur to protect us from the plunging temperatures, and no way to fight back against the unseen. Every sunset was a potential death sentence. In those times, nightlife meant climbing into the highest, thinnest branches of a tree, huddled together in a state of hypervigilance, praying that the wind didn't carry your scent to the predators prowling below. You didn't sleep. You waited for the dawn. This primal fear of the dark isn't just a childhood phase. It is a scar etched into our DNA from eons of being hunted in the shadows. Part 2. The Great Fire Revolution. But then, everything changed. We didn't just discover fire, we tamed it. Roughly 400,000 to 1 million years ago, humans achieved what no other animal could. We broke the monopoly of the sun. Fire was the ultimate pattern interrupt in human evolution. It wasn't just about cooking or warmth, it was about psychological dominance. The campfire created a safe zone, a glowing bubble of light that extended the day by 4, 5, or even 6 hours. This was the most important turning point in the history of the human mind. Think about the daytime. In the prehistoric world, the day was for the grind. It was high-stakes survival. You were tracking gazelles, digging for tubers, avoiding snakes, and competing for resources. There was no time for philosophy. But once the fire was lit and the perimeter was secured, a new space opened up. For the first time, humans were off the clock. Anthropologist Polly Wiesner, after decades of studying the Jew, Hoansi people, found that campfire talk is fundamentally different from daylight talk. During the day, conversations are 80% about logistics and work. But at night, under the protection of the flame, 81% of the conversation shifts to storytelling. The night became the incubator for our imagination. We started to tell tales of the great hunt, of where we came from, and of the mysterious spirits that lived in the trees. We weren't just staying awake, we were building the foundations of religion, mythology, and collective identity. The night shift was when we became truly human. Part 3. The Secret of the Two Sleeps, Segmented Sleep. If you think ancient humans slept in a solid 8-hour block like we try to do today, you are a victim of a modern myth. Until the invention of the light bulb, the human night looked very different. Imagine it's 2 a.m. in a Paleolithic camp. The fire has burned down to a low orange glow. Suddenly, half the tribe wakes up. This wasn't because of a noise or a threat. It was their natural biological rhythm. This is what historians call segmented sleep or biphasic sleep. Ancient humans would typically experience the first sleep shortly after dusk. Then, around midnight or 1 a.m., they would wake up for a period known as the watch. This wasn't a time of grogginess. It was a time of heightened creativity and calm. In this watch, the brain produces high levels of prolactin, a hormone that creates a state of tranquility. Some people would get up to tend the fire. Others would engage in quiet conversation, interpret their dreams to the elders, or even practice the first forms of medicine. It was a time of deep intimacy and community bonding. Then, after an hour or two of wakefulness, they would drift back into the second sleep until dawn. We often think of waking up in the middle of the night as insomnia, a modern disorder. But for our ancestors, it was a feature, not a bug. It was a survival mechanism that ensured someone was always semi-conscious to guard the group, while also providing a dedicated space for the human soul to process the mysteries of existence. By forcing ourselves into a single 8-hour block today, we have lost the most peaceful and reflective hour of the prehistoric day. Part 4. The Deep Cave Mystery, the first cinema. But while the campfire offered safety, some of our ancestors chose to deliberately leave the light and walk directly into the abyss. In southern France, hidden beneath the earth, lies the Chauvet cave. Inside, the walls are covered in breathtaking, ancient artwork, stampeding horses, battling rhinos, and fierce cave lions. But there is a chilling detail about these masterpieces. They were not painted near the entrance where sunlight could reach. They were painted deep inside the cave system, in chambers of absolute, suffocating darkness. Why? Why would prehistoric humans risk their lives crawling through tight, dangerous tunnels filled with the scent of hibernating cave bears just to paint in pitch black? The answer is a forgotten optical illusion. Prehistoric artists didn't have floodlights. They relied on small, sputtering animal fat lamps. When archaeologists recreate this flickering, moving light source and hold it up to the ancient walls, something miraculous happens. The animals come alive. The prehistoric artists intentionally drew multiple sets of legs on a single bison or overlapping heads on a horse. Under the steady, harsh beam of a modern flashlight, it looks like a crude mistake. But in the dancing, strobing light of a prehistoric fire lamp, the cave wall transforms into the world's very first movie theater. The animals appear to gallop, breathe, and charge across the stone. These deep chambers were sensory deprivation tanks. Ancient shamans would journey into the belly of the earth, plunging themselves into total darkness to induce altered states of consciousness. When deprived of normal sight and sound, the human brain begins to hallucinate. They didn't just paint what they saw during the day, they painted the visions that the darkness gave them. They went into the darkest nights of the earth to find the light of human creativity. Part 5. The Sentinel Hypothesis, Rise of the Night Owls. Of course, outside the magical confines of the cave, the danger of the dark was still very real. While the fire kept most beasts at bay, it wasn't a perfect shield. The prehistoric world was teeming, with nocturnal hunters perfectly adapted to the dark. To survive the long night, ancient humans had to act as a unified organism. And this brings us to one of the most fascinating discoveries in evolutionary biology, the Sentinel Hypothesis. Have you ever wondered why some people are extreme early birds, jumping out of bed at 5 a.m., while others are hardcore night owls, feeling most alive at 2 a.m.? Society often labels night owls as lazy or undisciplined. But evolutionary science tells a very different story. Because of our segmented sleep patterns, and the fact that our brains naturally developed different chronotypes, there was almost never a moment when the entire tribe was unconscious at the same time. While the early birds were getting their deep sleep, the night owls were wide awake, naturally alert, guarding the perimeter. When the night owls finally went to sleep around 3 a.m., the early birds were already waking up for the morning watch. If you are a natural night owl, you are not lazy. You are the genetic descendant of the ancient sentinels. Your ancestors were the ones who stayed awake while the rest of the tribe slept, keeping the fire burning, watching the tree line for glowing eyes, and ensuring that humanity survived to see another sunrise. Part 6. Conclusion: the heavy-hitting truth. Today, we have conquered the night. We have banished the shadows, bathing our cities in neon and staring into the endless glare of LED screens. We can turn midnight into high noon with the flick of a switch. But in destroying the darkness, we may have lost a crucial part of our humanity. We no longer gather around a shared flame to tell stories that bind our tribes together. We no longer experience the peaceful, prolactin-drenched wakefulness of the midnight watch. Instead, we stare at isolated blue-lit screens, fighting our biology, terrified of the silence that the night used to bring. Ancient humans didn't just hide from the night, they utilized it. The darkness forged our language. It sparked our first artistic masterpieces. It gave birth to our myths, and it forced us to look out for one another in order to survive. The next time you find yourself awake in the middle of the night, don't reach for your phone, don't fight the wakefulness. Sit in the dark, listen to the silence, and remember the millions of years of ancestors who sat in that same darkness, waiting for the sun, keeping the fire alive. If this journey into the prehistoric night changed your perspective, make sure to hit that subscribe button and join our tribe. We uncover the hidden secrets of human history every single week. And I want to hear from you in the comments. Are you a natural night owl or an early bird? You might just be the sentinel your ancestors needed. Stay curious, and I'll see you in the next video.